I recently made a video with this entrepreneur that I was talking to who was making $3 million in revenue with decent profit margins. And he's been stuck there for years. And he's had the same goal for years. And every year he said, okay, this time we're going to crack it. We're going to just optimize this little mechanic, this little piece about the funnel. We just got to solve this one problem. And then it just kept going for a year and another year. And the thing is that it's usually not about the mechanics, but it's about some sort of underlying pattern, a belief, a story, a way of operating that keeps us there. And in this video, I want to just dive into some of the common stories or patterns that I've seen in people like us that gets us stuck, especially if you're an entrepreneur, how to overcome them, and also starting with a quick update about him since the video. So if you watched the video, you saw me grilling him on the short-term thinking because that was his challenge. So his challenge was that underlying, like the outside pattern that he noticed, the mechanics was, we just got to get the funnel right. So we need these numbers, we need that to happen, and we need to solve these outside problems. But the underlying pattern that kept him stuck was this reactive short-term thinking, right? He was really struggling to say no, which also is the struggle to focus in general. And that's what caused all these issues in the first place, because he would jump from one thing to the next and something would come up, and then he was only able to put band-aids on broken legs instead of actually fully tackling one challenge until it's fixed and it lasts, right? And I'm sure you have a similar, you've had similar experiences, right? Where you're working on something that you know is really important, but something else that's urgent and important pops up. And it's a discipline to say no to those things. And I've heard Hormozy say this, that one of the biggest things they look for when they're partnering up with an entrepreneur for acquisition.com is their non-reactiveness. It's their ability to stay the course when new problems arise, and the willingness to let things burn and let things go south, and let problems come up, and then them just being like, okay, let's just sit with this for now because we still got to focus on this, right? Because when you interrupt the building process, you have to come back to it again. You undo a lot of the process, right? And so really cool update. We had a follow-up call, me and the anonymous person that I was coaching in that call, about this short-term thinking pattern. And since then, he's identified that there is a lot of bloat in his business and complexity and things that he said yes to that now he's still having to fulfill on, that they're still doing. But a lot of these aren't actually creating results. They just create more problems, right? They take on clients that they shouldn't be taking on, that they're working with, that don't get the results that his business promises. And essentially what it came down to is we identified the 10% in his business that create 90% of the value, right? And we all have one of these, whether it's actually the thing that we're offering in our business, or let's say you're a content creator, it is the video topics that you talk about, and then even a layer deeper within the video, how you structure the video, like what actually makes the video great, what actually makes the product great. So if you're offering multiple things inside that product, what is the thing, the 80-20, the 90-10 that creates the most value, that if you spend more time on it, it would become even more valuable, right? So that's really exciting. That's not to say that now we fixed it and he's going to achieve the goal and I get to take credit because I'm so awesome at spotting blind spots and poking people and challenging them, right? He still has to follow through, right? It's one thing to know, it's another thing to actually go and implement it all, right? But the thing that I want to reflect on with you here is, what is the story, pattern, belief, way of operating within me that is creating the majority of problems that I'm experiencing in my business, in my personal life, whatever it might be, right? So I've talked to dozens of entrepreneurs over the last year, all at different levels, right? A lot of them established. And one of the patterns that I saw as well, especially recently working with someone, was he was making, let's just say he was making over $1 million in profit per month. And he had a very small team. He had a business that is one that is around a passion for a lot of people, but it's actually not his passion. And he doesn't actually care about the business, and he wants out and he doesn't enjoy it. The key thing that held him back was his need to be liked. he wanted to be a nice guy. He didn't want to make his employees feel like he betrays them by leaving, by moving on, by taking someone else in the team and putting them in the leadership position. Because what if they don't want to do that? What if the other people are going to be jealous, right? Which begs the question, do you have to be willing to be an a-hole to be successful? Could be a good video topic. Let me know if you would be interested in that, because you see it again and again. Nice guys truly finish last, right? And I've certainly had my own patterns for that too. And I've worked hard at combating that. So that's one of them, right? Might that be a thing that's holding you back? Maybe you're like, no, absolutely not. That's not my problem. The inverse of that is you have entrepreneurs who are just total douchebags. And they are actually terrible leaders because people around them feel uncomfortable. They feel like, yeah, I'm definitely doing something wrong. He's going to point it out, and you can't win. And it's demoralizing, right? And how is that actually creating the most problems? Most of the problems that you currently experience, right? Might be the case for you. But maybe it's none of these things. Maybe it's the way that you treat yourself. Also a very common pattern. It is this need to have pressure and pain to drive yourself. And so even when things work well, you find a way to up the antics or to demand more of yourself or to make things more complicated than they need to be, because no pain, no gain. And if there's no pain and things are just working, well, there must be something wrong. This is not safe, right? Whatever it might be, which is also very, very common. Or a general sense of the grass is greener on the other side. There's something wrong with where I'm at, and I need to get over there, right? That's usually one of the things that creates ambition in the first place, right? It's the pressure to perform, to take control of reality, of your outside circumstance, and be like, you know what? I'm going to bust through this wall. I'm going to break through. I'm going to bang my head against it until it breaks down and we make it through. And we get rewarded for that, right? And we condition our brain to operate that way. And what if you are on the other side? What if you are on the grass now that you believed was greener? And then you look around and all the other grass is still greener. We need to get over there. Like this constant longing of having to get somewhere else. This is also another one of these patterns that can create really horrible dynamics or mechanics in the business, right? Where nothing's ever good enough and you have to keep improving. You have to keep messing with it instead of just keeping things as they are and let's just keep doing what works. And so for me, looking back at my past 5-year YouTube career before I burned out and came back, the biggest thing I've learned from that and the biggest lesson I had to learn is around consistency. Just do what works, because I did all these different formats, all these different topics, and always tried to innovate. Like I'm naturally an innovator, and there's actually a personality test or working style test that I would like you to check out that has been massively insightful. And I think as an entrepreneur, you must know your working style. And with it, your strengths and weaknesses so that you can correct them, right? So this is one of the things that I talked about with the entrepreneur as well in the video that I want to dive in here as well. So I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs who are advanced, right? They have a successful business, and they usually have the opposite problem of people who are just starting out, right? There's a ton of content out there for people who are starting out and just you need to get going. You need to just take massive action, go for it, make things happen. Everything takes way more effort than you think it does. So just do anything that it takes for it to be unreasonable that you won't succeed, right? That's the Hormozy thing, right? And it still rings true in later stages, of course, but the challenges that established entrepreneurs have oftentimes is the opposite, which is this core shift that you have to go from taking quick and massive action to more methodical action. Because once you've built the work ethic, your ability to go and execute and do things and not overthink and let's just go, move, you can get quite far with that. You can build $1 million a year profit business with that, with just massive action, balls to the wall, taking messy action left and right. And you see a lot of these people, right? Online, they always have a new thing, a new hustle that they're working on, but they never make it to the big business league or the place where they make the same amount of money, but they only work a third of the time that they used to, right? Like a real business that is a separate system from you that runs without you or mostly without you, right? And you can step away more and more over time, right? So that's a different stage, because to get there, you need more methodical action. And if you have methodical action as a beginner who's not even taking action, then you're just a procrastinator. Then I talked about the ready, fire, aim. Ready, fire, aim is a great approach for anything. But most beginners, the problem is they're just aiming. They do ready, aim, fire, and then they're just aiming, and they just take one shot and like, oh, I reached out to one client. Hopefully he'll sign up. They don't even open the cold email that you just sent. But then the challenge later on is that a lot of entrepreneurs, we get so caught up in just work, do more. And taking a step back actually is the challenging thing. Aiming, right? Ready, fire, and then aim. And then aiming is oftentimes the bottleneck, I could say, right? And what does it mean to aim? From my understanding, one of the big things is stepping away, letting the dust settle, the busyness, and getting absolute clarity on where is it that you're actually going, what is actually my outcome, and what are the different paths that are available to me? And from there, picking the best one, right? Like, how many times do you actually sit down and strategize? Like, purely big picture, working on the business, looking at, okay, is there an easier way to do this? And there always is. That's the crazy thing, right? There's always a much easier, simpler, less effortful way to achieve the goals that you're currently already going after. That might even be faster too. Yeah, there are just some high leverage moves where you realize, okay, we could have just built out this whole thing, worked for months, and it would have cost us this much. Or we partner up with one other business. We buy a business. We partner up with an influencer, whatever it is, and all the things are already done. And so that's why, a friend of mine, he's in touch with a lot of billionaires, and he has like mentors. He wants to be a billionaire himself. I don't. But he said, yeah, it's crazy. A lot of these billionaire guys, they just spend most of the time going out for lunch with people. And I'm not saying that's every billionaire, right? But it's certainly a certain archetype, right? A certain archetype that is just highly strategic, and they also have the work ethic to back it up when they need to, right? But they know that if I make the right connection with this one person, everything's taken care of. Like somebody who I've talked about in the past is Brian Lee. So Brian Lee is a guy who partnered up with Jessica Alba for The Honest Company. And then also Shoe Dazzle, I see here, never heard of it. And LegalZoom.com. And so all he does is he gets the right resources and the right people into the same room, and then he goes, go cook something, right? And so Jessica Alba didn't build The Honest Company. She's just the face of it. And maybe she has a couple of inputs and like, I don't know, maybe she sent some Pinterest board and like, hey, this is here like a little mood board of how it could look, what it could look like. And he's like, yeah, okay, cool. Here, let me get the CEO. He's going to run the show. And he steps back. And I think it's something worth learning or improving on, right? If it's not your nature, if it's not your modus operandi or your given talent that you deeply enjoy, don't put all your eggs in that one basket. And at the same time, might be worth something considering, right? The other thing when it comes to being laser focused and more leveraged and aiming more is just your ability to say no to things. I see this in myself. I get really excited about new ideas, just like everyone, right? And I immediately want to go do them. And I'm like, okay, we're going all the way in this direction, but I've done it enough times and fallen on my face enough times that I know, let's just let it sit for a week. Don't announce it to anyone. Don't share it with anyone. And just put it in the backlog of ideas. Put it on a sticky note. I have like 5 different sticky notes from the last few days already. And I usually what I see like with ideas, and usually what I do is after a few days, I look at them and I'm like, and I just throw it out. And your ability to say no, I mean, Steve Jobs was the master of that. And there's a story about him where he essentially talked to employees and one of his employees shared how anytime he would see Steve Jobs would ask him, what is something that you've recently said no to? And he asked it so much that by that point he would always have a prepackaged answer, right? But oftentimes Steve Jobs wouldn't accept that answer because it was too obvious. It's like, of course you're saying no to the thing that didn't work that well. Of course you're saying no to social media whatever it is, right? Whatever the obvious thing. The really challenging thing is saying no to really good ideas. Like things that will work, they'll make really good money. They're they're a no-brainer. And saying no to those things. Because there's a huge difference between even things that don't take much time. It doesn't take much time. Time is not the problem. It's more the headspace and the complexity that it adds, right? Where even if you just have a little thing that takes 2 hours a week to manage, and it makes as an extra 10% in revenue or whatever it is, right? It'll still be the thing that you think about in the back of your mind when you take a shower, when you talk to the team, when you map out what the team should look like, whatever it is. And then another thing that I have here in my notes that I wanted to talk about is adjusting your expectations, because that's what I think it is oftentimes required when it comes to long-term thinking, because we tend to overestimate how much we can do in a short time, and we underestimate how much we can do in a longer time, right? We think this year we're going to get to this revenue level with this business, we're going to build out this team, whatever it is. And in the next decade, we're like, oh yeah, I think I can build a company that's this big. I think I can create a life that looks like this, that has this much freedom, whatever it is. And results compound, especially when you stick to one thing and you don't pivot and you're consistent. And it's just, if you look at any growth, like a YouTube, like Mr. Beast channel growth, Joe Rogan's growth, podcast growth, business growth, it is exponential. And usually there's one big hockey stick that happens around year 6, 7, where, you're almost in a category of your own because you have so much experience and so much practice and so many little improvements that you made on this one thing that you're just the best, the only one. Sometimes that's one of the best things to stop feeling behind and stop being so reactive, is just knowing, oh, I shouldn't even expect these results in the next 3 months. If we can just get this little thing in place, we're on the right track to get this thing in place for the next year so that we can get this massive result in the next 5 years. And so this is goal setting to the now that Gary Keller talked about, the author of The One Thing. It's actually in the book, but not many people talk about it. But it's, I think, one of the most helpful ideas to think long term, which is you start with the goal at the end, begin with the end in mind, right? From 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And let's say you want to exit your company for $30 million. Let's just say that you want to do that in the next 5 years. You're currently at multi-7 figures, whatever it is. I want to exit for $30 million. Okay, what needs to be true for that to happen? And then from there, you reverse engineer, okay, what needs to happen this year so that in 5 years we have this goal, just so that we feel on track. What needs to happen in this year so that we feel like we're on track for the 5-year goal, knowing that results are exponential, they're not linear, right? And then from there, based on that 1-year goal, let's say in the next 12 months, okay, we need to get to this revenue level, and let's say, I don't know, something else. We need to have some sort of certain metrics that are in place, right? And then from there, reverse engineering it down to, okay, in the next 3 months, what do we need to have in place, or what do we need to have removed to feel on track to that, right? So I think that's one of the best things, to remove the reactiveness. And then doing that down to the month, this week, and then right now. That's how he does it in the book. The other point that I wanted to make that I kind of anchored early on is the importance of knowing your working style and knowing yourself. And there's a test that I've talked about before. It's the Kolbe, Kolbe index. The Kolbe A index. And it's like a $55 test that you can do. And it looks at 4 different working styles. It looks at fact finder, your ability to research and look up facts, get data, information, follow through, quick start, and implementer. And these are essentially the modus operandi that you fall back on when you're looking to achieve a task, right? So when you want to get something done, some people, they're very high in fact finder, right? They're like a 9 out of 10 or 9 out of 9, I think out of 10 maybe, 9 out of 10 fact finder. And they just want to immediately go and look at the patterns, look at the research, what does the data say, where is the market moving, whatever it might be. Then you have people who are high in follow through. They're just like, I'm just going to take the consistent action, right? I think that's what it's about. They just want to, okay, let me just show up every day and do this. And that's quick start. Quick start are the innovators. They want to do something new. They want to find a smart way around it. I am very high in quick start. Very great for making something new and innovative. Terrible for getting results long term if I don't focus on, if I'm not aware of my weakness and my downfall, right? And then there's implementer. Implementer, I'm not sure what it means, to be honest. What the difference between that is and follow through. I get to learn more about this test and what it tests for. But if you're high in quick start with which a lot of visionary, I don't mean visionary in a fluffy sense, but like forward thinking entrepreneurs are, you got to know that about yourself. And one option is improve your weakness of being methodical, being consistent, saying no to things, and just set systems in place so that you're better at that. But I think the best solution long term is to find somebody whose nature it simply is to be high in follow through. And this is what he talks about in the book Rocket Fuel. Rocket Fuel is a book about essentially how you need a implementer or integrator and a visionary. Right, so the visionary is high in quick start and just like, we're going to go over here. It's going to be amazing. Let's try something new. Let's, innovate, rock the market, and shake things up a little bit. And then you have the integrator who's like, hey, no, let's not do that. Let's just keep doing what works. And then we're only going to pick one thing that we're going to be doing for the next 3 months. And they oftentimes bash heads, right? Because they have completely different ways of operating, modus operandi. Right? Different Colby results. And it's actually the perfect combination. And the way I describe it is the fastest race car knows when to use the gas pedal and knows when to use the brake aggressively at the right time. And so the visionary, the person high in quick start, is the gas pedal, just like, let's go. But if you only had the gas pedal, you would fly out of the curves, which is what happens to a lot of reactive entrepreneurs, right? We just like, go, 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 go. And then things get so complicated and all these fires come up. That's essentially you missing the right turn on the track. And you're just like out in the sand or out in the whatever it's called. I don't know, racing. And the other side of it is the brake, right? You need the brake so that you can hit it aggressively when there's a turn coming, and then you can immediately accelerate again once you're out of the curve, out of the turn, and back on the straight line. And the integrator is the brake, the visionary is the gas pedal. The reason why I think it is valuable to learn more about your weakness and improve in that area is not because you should lean on it. It's not because you should just do it yourself, but it is purely because now you're able to see the value and you're able to appreciate the integrator or the person on your team that is completely different than you, that you constantly disagree with, or your spouse that is probably a very different person, otherwise you wouldn't be attracted to them. Just being willing to listen, because we have a lot of quick start entrepreneurs who are so go, 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 and they think their way is the only way. And it is up until $1 million a year, or whatever the number is, whatever industry you're in, it's different, but you've gotten results with this pattern so far. And when someone says, hey, slow down, you're like, what are you talking about? Slow down? Do you think that's how we got here? Yeah, that is not how we got here, but in order to grow from here, we actually need to slow down. And slowing down in this sense doesn't mean working less, but it means work on less things and think more long-term, right? And so when you improve that area, you're able to appreciate the other person more. And it's the same thing for the flip side, right? Like someone who's always very methodical but doesn't take quick shots. Like I also had a lot of judgment for people who are just posting content and it's always the same thing. And it's so boring. It's just like, man, it's so overdone. They do the same video every year. How boring. And whatever I judge, I tend to lack oftentimes, right? Because we don't permit that behavior in ourselves. And there's oftentimes something to look at where, honestly, I should be doing more videos and more projects that I've already done in the past that have worked and just put a new spin on it. Like it's proven to work, and then just show up more often. So how do you overcome it? First of all, you got to identify it and be honest with yourself what your internal bottleneck is. What is that pattern? Is it short-term thinking? Is it being a douchebag to your team and therefore they don't trust you, or they don't feel safe, or they don't bring things up to you, or they constantly feel like they have to manage your emotion? Is it you're a nice guy? Is it reactive short-term thinking? Whatever it is, right? What is it for you? What is truly creating the thing underneath what's not working in the business? And when you have good friends, or you have a coach, or you have a therapist, or whatever, when they're good, they reflect things to you. They tell you. Like the best friends are the ones who sometimes ask you, hey, can I tell you what I think about this? Can I give you some honest feedback? Can I tell you what I'm noticing? And oftentimes it's the thing that we'll resist the most. Like big fear of mine has always been, man, I don't want to be lumped in with these other personal development guru people who are, they're a bit preachy, or they have a questionable integrity, whatever it might be. And I'm like, I want to make sure that I don't seem like that. I want to, it's this fear of being misunderstood. And I've stopped myself so many times. And I've had multiple friends who told me, dude, why do you even worry about that? Why do you even care about that? Like people will misunderstand you. The right people will get it. That's the first one. Identify it and be honest with yourself. Which one is it? And if you can't identify it, ask your besties, ask your friends, or ask someone who you trust, right? Like that's one of the biggest things that we do in the community. Now I'm currently having one-on-one calls with everyone who signs up. So go check it out if you're curious. And you want a mental sparring partner who can reflect things to you and who's already seen a bunch of patterns. I can help you with that. Identify it, and then the key thing is see how it's no longer serving you at this stage. And in fact, it's holding you back. The beating yourself up, the I have to work more, right? And then you show up tired and exhausted. You make worse decisions. You're just less effective. You don't see the bigger picture because you're so in it. Maybe it's the people pleasing, the being nice. Yeah, but that's really helped us. That's gotten us to this business that we're at right now. All our team, we're all getting super along. Yeah, but sometimes peace is not the best goal to have in a team, right? And then from there, make the jump to continuously choose the new story. What is the new story what is the upgrade of this pattern? Is it that, okay, instead of beating myself up, I'm going to give myself an honest assessment, celebrate the things that worked, and see where the gap is. And then from there, I don't take it personally. I no longer take it personally, right? Is it maybe that, hey, I take laser-focused action? Or, hey, I only work on one thing every 3 months. Once a quarter, we have one goal, and that's it. And the new rule is that if we achieve that goal, even if a bunch of other things went wrong, we won. We did it, right? And there's going to be forks in the road for you where you can choose the old pattern, give into it, or you can just take the leap and be like, you know what? I'm not going to beat myself up this time. I'm not going to see how things could have been better. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I'm not going to get reactive. I'm just going to let this thing burn and choose the new story, choose the new pattern, the new belief, whatever it might be. Hope this was valuable. Get support from someone who you trust, who can spot your patterns. Happy to help you with that as well. You can just join the school community. I'm doing a one-on-one call with everyone who signs up now. I hope this was valuable, and see you in the next one.